For this video, I'm going to be using 15mm knitting needles in Woolies Thick and Quick, which is always a staple in chunky winter designs. I'm going to be creating a size medium, so if you're making a medium, you may not need the pattern, but if you're using any other size, you're going to need the pattern. We're going to begin with a slip knot, and I'm going to go ahead and place it on my right needle, or I guess left needle. And now we are going to cast on 35 additional stitches using the knitted cast on method. To do this, you're going to insert your right needle into the slip knot. You're going to yarn over and knit it, twist it away from you, and slip it on the needle. So that was how you do the first one, and now I'm going to go in between the two stitches, yarn over, knit it, twist away from you, and put on the left hook. So I'm going to do a couple more on camera, and then I will come back whenever I have 36 total stitches on my knitting needles. It's also important to note that you want to keep these stitches fairly loose because you're going to be knitting into them, and it's going to be a really difficult first row if they're too tight. I also want to mention that we're starting at the top of the sweatshirt, which is the hood. So if you don't want to do the hood, just skip this part and then you'll just knit a regular raglan sweater. So I'll be back when I have 36 stitches on my needles. So I have 36 stitches on my needles and I'm going to start working the hood. The hood is worked flat because otherwise there would be nowhere for your head to pop out of and it would be really bizarre and no one wants that. So we're going to work the hood flat and then sew it up at the end. We're going to be working in stocking net stitch for the entire garment, and so while we work flat, we want to alternate knitting a row, purling a row. And we also don't want the sides to fold in, which usually happens on stocking net. So we're going to, on knit rows, purl the first two and the last two. So I'm purling the first two, and then I'm going to knit the last two, or knit two until I have two left, and then purl the last two. And you'll see that keeping your cast on stitches loose is super helpful. Otherwise it's just miserable to have to fight your own work to do it. Okay, so now I have two left, so I'm going to pull the yarn back in front and then purl the last two. And this will just help mitigate the curling. There'll still be a little bit of curling, but it'll be far less drastic. So now we're going to knit the first two and then purl until there's two stitches left and then knit the last two. And so you're just going to be repeating row 1 and row 2 until you have 31 rows complete. And I'll meet you back here whenever I get to that point. So I finished my 31 rows on my hood, and so I'm ready to start working in the round and placing my raglan markers. We've ended on a knit row, and that's going to be really important to end on a knit row before you join because we want this to be in right side stocking net. So it says that in the pattern, but I'll go ahead and show you exactly how to do this here. So the numbers are going to be different for every size, not every size, some sizes will be the same as medium for the raglan setup, but this is how you do a medium. So you finished off on a knit row, and of course the first two and last two stitches of the row have the purl to stop the curling. So now we are going to continue working in knit and join the round. we are going to place a stitch marker, and this denotes the beginning and end of every round. Instead of purling these first two, we're just going to go back in, and it might be a little tight because they were purled before, and we're going to knit 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to place the first shoulder marker, and I will say that since these are 15 millimeter, I don't have stitch markers that are big enough, so I'm using small ponytails. So I'm going to knit another 6. It's important that you get these numbers right, so I'm just going to double check. So I have 2, 4, 6. I'm going to place the next marker. And now we're working along the back. So this is the front, this is one of the shoulders, and then this will be the back. So we're going to do 12. And don't worry if the math is scary to you. You don't have to worry about it at all because I wrote it all out in the pattern. And if you're doing a size medium, then you may not even need to refer to the pattern. But I'm just going to do 12 here. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Okay, I'm going to place another and do 6. I'm going to place my last marker and knit 6 more to finish the first round. This is technically, I call it round 32 because I count the hood rows as a part of this. So this was technically row or round 32. So now I'm going to show you how to do the raglan increases. So once you've placed your markers, you now know where the beginning of each round is and where each increase is going to take place. So go ahead and slip the stitch marker or the round marker and just continue to knit in the round. So once we get to, we're going to do increases on every stitch marker for a shoulder. So not the very first one that marks the rounds. So you're going to place an increase on this stitch and on this stitch. And the way that I designed this sweater is that you're going to knit in the front of the stitch and then the back of the stitch. Sorry, I just switched to continental knitting there for a hot second. Okay, and so I'll show you in English. You're going to do the front of the stitch, and without removing it and putting it on your right needle, you're going to knit into the back of the stitch. So now we have our 2 stitches and then 2 increase stitches. So I'm going to work to the next stitch marker. And now that I'm at the stitch right before, I'm going to knit into the front of the stitch, and without removing it from the left, I'm going to go into the back. So you're going to be repeating rows 32 and 33 until, for a size medium, until you have 55 total rounds, including the hood rows. So essentially you're going to be on odd rows you're going to be working your increases, and on even rows you're not. So that's really important. It's really important you don't increase on every round, otherwise the raglan increases will look really off and the shape of your sweater will be not desirable. So I'm going to go ahead and do the 2 round repeat until I have 55 total rows. So you'll be ending on an increase row for a size medium. And again, check the written pattern on my blog, and it's free, to show you how many rounds you will be working in this increased fashion.